Welcome to the Ask Brien Show. The following is paid programming and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. You're listening to the Ask Brien radio show, A-S-K-B-R-I-E. And because the only way to spell Brien is with an E. Now, you're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. And we have our co-host. He is standing by. His name is Alex Grossman. Alex, you there? Well, are you?
I am here, Mr. Brien Johnson. How are you today?
I'm okay. Now, I have a question. Well, actually, we have a very interesting show today. So even though Alex Grossman is our co-host, Alex Grossman is not schizophrenic, but he is playing the guest. Are you there?
Oh.
Absolutely.
It means you're going to put me on the spot today a little
Actually,
bit.
I always want to do that. You're the guest. All right, so I always wanted to try that, maybe a horror flick or something. But anyway, we're back here with the Ask Brien radio show. For people that have never listened to Ask Brien, and that's spelled with an E, for those who've never listened, well, you're in for a treat. Ask Brien is basically a business education source where you can learn something about business each week. It's associated with the website, Ask Brien, AskBrien.com. And AskBrien.com is a site for experts where they can put out a platform. They can put up videos, ebooks, blog posts, schedule webinars, and be contacted for any information that a business owner needs to help solve a business problem. There's also a business community whereby business owners can ask and answer business questions of other business owners. So the dry cleaner in Atlanta can speak to the dry cleaner in Bismarck and said, somebody left their fur coat, what do I do? Because sometimes you just need to speak to another business owner to solve a problem, and sometimes you need an expert. And when you need an expert, Ask Brien is the source for you. You also have ability to watch webinars, Ask Brien radio show reruns, if you haven't watched our show, and you can learn something about business to try to solve a business problem. We're all about helping you, business owner, solve your business problems through experts and through a business community. Without any further ado, we are here with Alex Grossman. So, Alex, a couple things for you. You've been my co-host for a while, but some of them don't know that before, and besides being a co-host, you have quite a background in business, and you have agreed today to explain some things for business owners, to try to help business owners out that have never, ever, ever started a business or ever started or launched a product. So we're going to go into those areas today. So people, if you've thought about launching a product, thought about launching a service, thought about, hey, you know what, I'm just getting in business, I don't know what to do. Well, you're going to be very, very intrigued, and you're going to learn a lot today. And Mr. Alex Grossman is going to try to help you out and try to solve those problems. He has a long history, over 25, 30 years probably in business. I know, Alex, now everyone knows you're over 30, but, it had to come out at some point. And there's a lot of information that Alex is going to be able to help you out with. And I encourage Alex to be forthright and tell people really the ins and the outs. So, Alex, first of all, let's try to go hypothetically. Should we do a product or a service? I'll let you make that decision.
I think a lot of things apply the same, whether they're products or services, and it really matters what market you're going after. So I think we can talk a little bit about how products and services work in different markets. I know we get a lot of questions, and we don't always answer them all, and that's why I think today is really good. People always ask whether they have a business, an existing business or a new business, and they have this great product idea, and they want to bring it to market, and they really don't know how, or they've done it and it hasn't worked out right. So I think it really doesn't matter if we talk about a product or a service today. I think your approaches are very similar.
Well, okay, so First question I have is somebody asked me, and I didn't know the answer. What is the difference between a soft launch and a hard launch?
That's actually a great first question to start off with. So let me back it up a little bit and say, when you're considering launching a product, or you have this great product idea, and you've thought about it, and you've decided that you've told yourself it's a fantastic idea. You sold it, hopefully, to friends and family and business associates, and you've come up with the idea that you've convinced yourself that this is a great idea, and you say, well, what do I do next? Like, what are my next steps in doing this? And we usually break that up as marketeers into two areas. We break it up into what we call a soft launch and a hard launch. And essentially the differences are, a hard launch is where you have all the pieces in line, and we'll talk about what those pieces are, and you go out hard. You go out with knowing exactly what your target market is, exactly what your product is, exactly where it is, and you just turn on the spigot and spend the money and just assume you know everything there is to know, and you go out hard. And there are a lot of people, my former company, Apple, that's what they do. They don't do soft launches. They go out and they tell you exactly what that product's going to be, because they're pretty sure, and they're not always right, but they're right more than they're wrong. They're pretty sure they know who the customer in the market is. A soft launch is where you take more of an approach where you say, well, I'm not 100% sure that I know exactly the configuration of the product, and that can be a product or a service, but I think I know, and what I want to do is I want to have a gradual start. So I don't want to go out there and spend every bit of money I have knowing that tagline is right, knowing that the color of the product is right, knowing that the $24.95 a month is the right amount to charge for the service. I just want to go out and do it gradually. And there are times when you want to do a soft launch and times when you want to do a hard launch, and you can be successful in both, but you really have to ask yourself a number of questions before to know if you're really ready and to know which direction you want to go. Does that help you understand the difference a little bit?
Right, but what I'm learning basically is, I think you go the hard launch. If you're a big, huge company and you got a lot of assets and money and you can deal with it. I think that if you're a small company, I'm thinking that might be one of the distinctions. Is that a distinction, or it doesn't really matter the size of the company? It just matters the product and how much conviction the company has. Which
yeah, and that's exactly it. So it really doesn't matter if you're a small company or a large company. It depends on if you've done all the research you need to do, and it really depends on the market. So you and I have these discussions all the time. We have these with our guests, that it's more perspiration than it is inspiration to launch a company and to launch a product. It takes a lot more than most people know to really start a business. You know this, and I know this, right? You get this great idea, even just for a business, and you start it up and you go, oh my gosh, I did this business so I'd be independent, but now I'm working like 80 hours a week, and I never see my family, and I never get to do the things I used to do when I worked for someone 40 hours a week. It's the same type of thing with the product launch. If you know the market, it's a market you've been in, you understand the market, you know the audience, you have 100% assurance that the product you're launching has a market and audience before you start. You know that you have spent the time and the money to make the product to the highest quality you can, so it's either competitive or better than the products that are out there. And you have the source, the resources to do the hard launch, because let's face it, a hard launch involves a number of things we're going to talk about, from the marketing perspective and the perspiration perspective, meaning going out there and making it viral, as we say today. And you have to be able to do that. A soft launch spares you some of the money, and also, doesn't get you out there with a very heavy expenditure, a lot of time and effort, and then the thing falls on its face. And to me, that's probably the thing that a lot of people don't understand, is that probably between 70 to 75% of all product launches fail, or at least they fail to meet the expectations that the person launching them has. And we've seen that before, even from the big guys, right? We see this from big companies. We could all name things that have failed right out of the gate, and from the largest companies. And you don't see the failures from the small companies because they hit your memory for a second, they fade away, or maybe you never even saw them. So
what was wrong with New Coke?
Yeah, there you go. I mean, well, I think they're bringing it back because of Stranger Things or one of those TV shows I heard. But yeah, exactly. New Coke that's an excellent example, right? I mean, how many hundreds of millions of dollars were spent in the advertising? How many New Coke cans were made, and the thing just flopped and fell on its face, right? So many times like that. I would think of Microsoft with the Zune, probably the most expensive, or at least one of the most expensive consumer electronics launches. All the astroturfing that went on. If you don't know what that is, you can look that up. Really interesting, expensive product, and the thing flopped. And, I was at Apple at the time, so we were all cheering. But honestly, you look at those things, you go, how could a company so good like Microsoft do that? But it does happen. And that was pretty much a hard launch that just, went down the toilet. But there are so many soft launches that we look at, and they just turn into these incredible things you don't realize. You think that they're everywhere, but really they just started very small and grew from a viral standpoint. And these type of soft launches can be just as successful as a big company hard launch. And that happens all the time. But we realize it, and that's why you as a company or a product person need to get your stuff together before you launch. There's no doubt about it.
Well, what about market research? Don't you do that before you do a hard launch, even if you're Apple or Coca-Cola?
Well, yes, it's true. There's a few things you have to do before you launch a product that I say you just can't get around. I mean, the first thing is you have to have this list of questions, if you want to call it, that you put in there, and the list of questions usually fall into what the product flaws are as well. So if you kind of look at a real launch and a typical scenario that we have, you ask yourself these questions months before you're actually going to launch. And some people say, well, I have an idea and I got to get it to market like tomorrow. Well, the problem is you're not going to be prepared. So the first thing you have to have is, are you personally prepared, and is your team prepared to take on a product launch? Are you ready? Do you have all the things you need? And you go, well, it's pretty hard to know what those things are, or if you're ready, if you don't know what those things are. So I ask these questions before I start. And I ask them kind of in this area. What's the development process? If this is a product and it's a hardware physical product, do I have all the pieces I need to launch it? Do I have all the components I need, all the technology? Is everything there to be able to launch the product? Did I handle things like FCC testing and pedigrees like UL? Do I have the packaging? What is my out-of-box experience? Hardware products are by far the most difficult things to launch because there's physical hardware. How do I distribute it? How do I stock it? What's my lead time on components? These things can be months. I mean, if you're building a consumer electronics product, you might have a 9-month lead time on a semiconductor. I mean, you just don't know. So these things are hard. Software products are a little more forgiving because obviously you can do updates to them really quickly, and you can get out there a lot faster. But you still have to ask those questions: am I ready? Did I do all my work? What does my UX and UI look like? What's my essential out-of-box experience with that as well? And services are even usually harder because in services, people sign up right away, and you're going to get questions from day one. You're going to have to answer questions on the service. If I pay X dollars for this, what do I get? And people demand, I would say, exact answers from day one. So that quote-unquote development process has to be well understood. And then you do that, and you have to ask yourself the next thing. You have to say, well, what is my unique selling proposition? And this is really the one that most people struggle with, and this is actually probably one of the number one failures of a product. You have this great idea, this great concept, but nobody wants to buy it. And this is a very, very typical thing that happens. You you do something that I call believing your own headlines, where you've told yourself this product is absolutely needed for everybody in the world so many times that you believe it. And most products come out of people having an idea that they have a problem personally, and they just lay that problem against other people and say, well, you know, if I have the problem, so does everybody else. And that's usually the number one flaw that you run into is what's the usability of the product to other people, and that's the thing you have to be prepared for. And that usually leads you to this question of, you know, what do I do about having a unique selling proposition? The other thing you have to ask yourself right away is not only am I ready with the product, whether it's hardware, software, or service, am I ready with the other pieces around the launch? So today's launches look a lot different than launches in the past. Launches in the past, if you had the money, you did television or radio advertising. I still think radio advertising is within people's reach. Television advertising absolutely is not for most people. The next thing you have to do is you go, well, I need online presence. And people go, well, I'll put up a web page or a landing page. That'll attract people. People will instantly find it. Well, you know, there's tools like SEO and other tools and online advertising to find these things, but the internet is not like a brick and mortar business that a lot of people fall prey on this. They knew that if they were opening up, say, a store selling furniture, they know that they get in the busiest street corner in their town, everybody's going to drive by, and all you do is put up that big sign that says, new furniture store, lowest prices, best products, and people will just jump in. And when you have a new product, you stick it out on the sidewalk with a sign that says, new couch, $29.99, and people see it. Well, on the internet, you know, it's every street corner can be the best street corner, but you have to find that street corner. And so unless you know the URL and the address, or you do an incredible amount of advertising to get people there, you know, you're not going to get it. And you have to remember the internet takes time. Google and others take time to propagate this information. So you may actually put information up weeks or months before you launch, and, you know, your risk of people finding it early is very low. And so those things you have to be prepared before you start. You have to write the copy. You have to understand whether you want organic growth or you want paid growth. And I think what's really important is you have to have a product launch sequence. You have to say, here's all the questions I have, here's the sequence I have, and what am I going to do if it doesn't work? So is this like an all or nothing thing? That's what hard launches usually are. They're all or nothing. I go out hard. If this doesn't work, you know, it's my last penny. I've spent my last dollar on it, and you sit there and wait for the phone to ring, or you sit there and wait for the orders to come in over the internet, and they don't happen. And what most people do is, because they spent their last dollar on it, they panic and pull the plug. They cry all the way to the bank, right? But no, they pull the plug and they run away. And realistically, if they had it up another month or so, you know, it might turn on. You don't know. And that's people get, you know, extremely nervous when things don't happen, because we live in an ADD society. I mean, instant gratification. I put my money down, I get it. I mean, I'm an Amazon shopper on a lot of things, and I will look at, you know, the Amazon Now before I'll look at even Prime and go, I want it today. How do I get it today? Right? I don't want to wait 2 days. Oh my God, 2 days, God forbid, right? Just too long. So we get into that, and we tend not to want to do things softer and take organic approaches. We want that all or nothing, live or die, you know, response, and that's what usually happens. But a lot of times what we don't do as well, as I mentioned, we tend to not look at the product market fit. You know, how does this product fit in the market? And sometimes there isn't even a market for the product, which is really, really a bad thing. Or we do the other thing, which I think is just as bad, where we go, there's already product A in the market. I'm going to come out with product B, and it's going to be a little better. You know, it's shinier and cleaner and better than product A, and people are instantly going to buy my product. And that's usually a fallacy that people have that you need to think about when you're launching a product. You need to do what we call SWOT analysis of not only the market, but the products themselves, and really understand what the what products have. I mean, what are the opportunities?
Alex, I don't mean to interrupt. We're going to be right back. Taking a quick
You
break.
got it.
KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM.
Your building sign is essential to getting customers to your location. Feathers can help you get your business noticed. Feathers, now in a new, larger space with plenty of parking. They walk you through each phase of your project with special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will provide you with a sign that you can be proud of. Your sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Visit Feathers online at feathersigns.com or go to Feathers' brand new, bigger location at 26017 Huntington Drive off Rye Canyon or call 298-9442.
Great healthcare just got easier and more convenient in Canyon Country. Facey Canyon Country is now open directly off the Soledad Canyon exit off the 14 freeway. The 37,000 square foot clinic houses Facey Medical Group primary care physicians, pediatricians, and specialists. Facey has easy 24/7 online appointment scheduling for PCPs and peds. For more information or to make an appointment, visit facey.com. That's FACEY.com.
What's the perfect way to end the weekend? Sunday brunch at Salt Creek Grill, of course. Wind down with delectable dishes off Salt Creek's award-winning menu and enjoy a glass of champagne, because after all, you deserve it. Make Sunday brunch at Salt Creek Grill a new tradition with your family and friends. Salt Creek Grill in Valencia on Town Center Drive in front of the movie theater. For reservations, 222-9999 or go online to saltcreekgrill.com.
Do you like to rock across Africa?
Then the wait is over.
Africa Rocks! Africa's Greatest Hits is now available at the San Diego Zoo. And who could forget 99 red baboons?
Or the African crested porcupine smash hit, I Got Quills to Pay the Bills. Hey, don't get too close.
And the hits keep on coming.
Africa Rocks has all your favorites from 6 different African habitats.
Hungry like a leopard.
Ibex is back.
Harder, better, Fossa stronger.
And a new track from Kendrick Lamar.
Now, Larry.
Yes, Chuck?
A collection of this magnitude, I'd fly to Africa.
Well, don't pack your bags, friend. Africa Rocks is only available right here at the San Diego Zoo.
Wow, that really does rock.
No, it Africa Rocks.
Welcome to Africa Rocks. Experience 6 different African habitats, including our first ever aquatic enclosure with African penguins. Only at the San Diego Zoo.
Coming to the Canyon, Santa Clarita, John Anderson, the voice of Yes, Sinbad, Blue Oyster Cult, Puddle of Mud, John B., Jeff Tate, Scott Stapp of Creed, Jefferson Starship, Don McClain, Ted Nugent, Quiet Riot, Black Flag, The Original Wailers, and many more. Borderline Country Nights every Thursday. And don't miss your chance to see every show this summer for just $99. Get your summer pass today. And remember, the Canyon is the perfect place to host parties and special events. The Canyon, Santa Clarita, where music meets the soul. Tickets available through Ticketmaster.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the Law Office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the Law Office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com.
Starting a landscape project? SCV Water is available to help you from start to finish. At their free gardening classes, you'll learn planning, design, and budget, plant selection and care, irrigation and maintenance, sustainable landscape basics, and so much more. Visit yourscvwater.com for a schedule of free gardening classes. That's yourscvwater.com.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back. You're listening to KHTS 1220 and 98.1 FM. We have our guest, also co-host, also superhuman, Alex Grossman. Alex, you there?
I am here, Brian. I am here. We were talking about SWAT when you cut me off a little bit. And
right, and so the viewers were asking the question while you're on break. They called up and they said, SWAT, okay, I got a fly, and I have a fly swatter. 10% of the people thought it was a fly swatter. 30% thought it was that police show that they have on TV called SWAT.
I think that was 20 years ago for that show.
I think they have continue to have a newer version for the millennials. So, and then there's some people out there that say, no, he's a marketing guy. It has to do with marketing. So you've got about 60% of the people thought that it was marketing, 30% thought it was SWAT, the police show, and 10% thought it was a fly swatter. So, without any further ado, Alex Grossman, please explain SWAT.
Sure.
And hold on. And that's a SWAT. Oh, SWAT.
That's a SWAT. Okay. That's a SWAT. No, and I'll tell you, SWAT is a really interesting term. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And a lot of people say to me, well, that's great if you're IBM or you're Apple or you're Microsoft. You're going to have teams of people going out and doing that. And I always say, well, you got mom and you got pop, and they got this thing called Google or DuckDuckGo if they don't want to use Google, or Firefox or IE or any of those others. But the idea out there is that you have to know the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats of your competitors. You just have to before you can launch a product. And if you're mom and pop, you're going out there on the internet and you're looking at it if it's that type of product. I mean, how many of us have done this where you own a store and you go look at how other people market or merchandise their stuff? This is what they do. I always think of two things when I think about SWAT. When I used to tell my teams about it, a great Eddie Murphy movie called Trading Places, where I won't say it's a McDonald's copy, but McDougal's was McDonald's copy, and he had the McDonald's
hold on, you're
manual.
mixing movies, pal, okay? McDougal's was Coming to America, okay?
Coming to America. Thank you. Sorry, yeah.
Trading Places was with Dan Aykroyd and the commodities guys with a $1 bit. Come on. Anybody knows that.
That's a Mortimer dollar, yeah. That's right. Very good. So Coming to America was a great one there with the McDougal's handbook, which was the McDonald's handbook. And, people always look at that and they say, well, you have to be able to do that. I watched this little TV show, animated show called Bob's Burger, where they're constantly looking at who has what food. This is the SWOT analysis that most mom and pop shops do. And bigger SWOT analysis, well, we use the internet. We look at the products. We look at their unique selling propositions. We look at their price, their specifications, and that's true whether it's a product or service. And you do that going out the door because, you have an idea. This happens quite a lot. People get down the road. They don't realize what it's going to cost to either build a product, like they have an idea for an app, and they go, well, I have this great idea for an app, and it sells for $4.99 on the App Store, and I can do the same thing. My app's going to be better, and they think, well, I'm going to sell it for $4.99. Then they realize it's going to cost $100,000 to build, and they do the analysis, or they don't do the analysis, and that's the real problem. But they do the analysis, and they go, it's going to take me forever and a day to get my money back based on X number of people using it. So you have to do those type of analysis, and if you do it and you get through, you probably won't have the common failures. But the common failures are usually, and mom and pops really have to worry about what I call common failure number one, and that's that your company or your people, you kind of can't support the growth of having a great product. So a great product is, and I had a boss at one time, and I told him that we just can't support the shipping of the product. We had a product, and we were building it. We couldn't build it fast enough. Back orders were happening. People were calling every day going, where's my product? Where's my product? And he said, you have a high-quality problem, Alex. And I said, no, we have a worse problem because I can't get the product done, and I'm using the whole company to do it, and all our other stuff is not getting done. So if you're a small company, you're a mom and pop, you got 2, 3 to 10 people, and you launch a product and it's highly successful, you don't scale the company, and what ends up happening is everybody who's supposed to be working on other stuff now gets pulled into this great new cool shiny object, and your rest of your company fails. And that happens a lot. You end up killing the rest of your company, and you end up not being able to put the product out. And it's what we call the mosquito flaw. Mosquitoes are always attracted to the light. and the new product becomes a shiny new object, becomes a light, and everybody in the company just attracts to it, and you go. And I'll tell you, a lot of this stuff I'm saying, if you search the internet enough, you'll find a lot of these ideas and concepts are there. People talk about them. But, find them is hard. Knowing what really works is hard. I can only tell you from my experience, that's probably number one in a small company. Number two is that, and I mentioned this before, is that you have a new category of product. And the new category of product is because you have this great ideas no one ever had, and you have to build that category, and you just assume that everybody's going to get it because you got it and you explained it yourself one-on-one to your best friend, and they got it. And so instantly you're going to put something up on the internet, or you're going to put out a little ad or a brochure, and it's going to have 10 words. And guess what? You're such a good wordsmith that everybody's going to instantly go, I get it. I know what I'd use this for. This is perfect. It's a better mousetrap. That usually doesn't happen, and that's an overestimation that people make. And when they do a hard launch where they've committed everything they've had, the last dollar into this, and it doesn't happen right away, they get disenfranchised. They feel bad, and life doesn't happen. So educating, especially on consumer products, educating consumers is really, really hard. I'll go back to a product that I was really familiar with, the iPod. Everybody thinks when the iPod came out, it was an instant success. Billions were sold, and, Apple went from, $20 billion to $100 billion overnight. Well, it wasn't overnight. It was a struggle for 6 months, even with the size of Apple. And then once it took off, once people actually figured it out and got it and threw their Walkman away, the product was unbelievably successful. And in that case, there were other products out there already that did essentially the same thing. Yes, they didn't have the click wheel, which was a Phil Schiller invention that was awesome, but there were products like SanDisk, and there was a number of them, I don't even want to name them all, where they had MP3 players. The MP3 player had been out for close to 4 years. In fact, Tony Fadell, who a lot of people call the godfather of the iPod, he was the guy who invented the technology. He had a website out there for 3 years before, basically telling you, other than the click wheel, how you could build an iPod. And
but didn't the iPod really work because he was able to make deals and connections with the music companies, or that was later?
See, people don't realize that. I mean, I don't have the time to go through the whole story, but that was the iTunes Music Store, which came afterward. So people don't realize that was another step up in the iPod, but it wouldn't have gotten paid for unless the iPod was successful. And this is the next flaw. The next flaw is whether you build an MVP or you come out with a full-blown product. You're familiar with MVP, right, Brien? Most valuable player. Oh. There we go.
Minimum viable product.
Exactly, minimum viable product. And in some ways, the iPod was, and I don't want to, I'm not going to say how Apple did this, but if you look at this case, the iPod was the minimal viable product. The actual full product would have been the iPod plus the iTunes Music Store. So that would have been the full product. But if we look at where it grew from the iPod, the iPod into the iPod and the Music Store, then into video, then into the iPhone. So realistically, going out there, one of the flaws is really knowing what you need to put out and knowing what a minimal viable product is. And I'm not always saying you need to go out with a minimal viable product. You usually should go out with the most substantial product you have. But if you don't go out early, what do? You wait. And if you wait, you usually miss the market. So that is another problem that people have. On that same thing, it's like the iPod came out, and a lot of people, Apple especially, coined it as a revolutionary new product. And the luck they had there is that this revolutionary new product did things better than the old technology, which was Walkman technology or the CD or cassette Walkman, which both had significant problems. The idea of having solid state, well, in that day it was actually a spinning hard drive, a 1.8-inch spinning hard drive. But the idea that you could have your music on that rather than have it on a disc or a tape, that was kind of revolutionary. But if the market didn't see it as revolutionary and it wasn't priced right, it wouldn't have sold. So things that you think are revolutionary, a lot of times you're ahead of the market or you live in a bubble and you need it where you are. Like, for instance, if it was I'm 2 miles from the beach, so I think things that have to do with the beach are really cool, but people who live in Ohio probably don't. I bet you if you're in Santa Clarita, you probably don't need a sweater for those cold beach nights because it's probably 90 degrees at night there. So in the summer. So you have to really know thy market and do that. So the other I think the other thing that really will kill you, and we're talking about MVP, and this is really important on a product launch, as much as it is about the product, is that you don't hype the product too much. So I would call it human nature to be able to say, I've convinced myself, I believe my own headlines, my product, it does everything. It turns lead into gold. It'll do anything you want it to do, and you have this tendency to hype it up, and even though you have a minimal viable product, what you want to do is you want to talk about features that aren't there. And this is more marketing than product related, but it's really simple when you start writing the copy for a product or putting it in there and you go, well, by the time anybody reads this, I'll have that new feature. So you just put it in there. And then what happens is people get the product, and in today's world, we've had so many guests that have talked about this, so I'm not going to delve in deep, but bloggers, influencers, reviewers, all the way from Yelp reviewers to Amazon reviewers and people like that that are on the web, all they have to do is get a product, and they bought it because of feature 47 down on the list that they absolutely want it, and it's not there. So if the product doesn't live up to its...
So I bought that. I bought that Porsche because it had that windshield wiper, and I just wanted it. So I spent $190,000 for the Porsche Carrera for that windshield wipers.
And I think it's pretty cool. But it didn't work, right? And that's the problem. So you get a product out there.
It whistled.
Yeah, it whistled, exactly. I know some cars actually do that. And it's normal. No, I'm kidding. But you get bashed pretty hard. You get hammered. You get hammered on making false claims. And you don't think they're false because, they're a little bit of a stretch. And I recently worked with a company that actually paid me, believe it or not, to help them launch a product. And I wouldn't launch the product after I learned about the product. I read their literature that they had. It was all written by their engineers, and the product did everything. I mean, it sliced, it diced, it did whatever you needed it to do. But in the real world, I just sat down as a consumer, did an out-of-box experience with the product, opened it up, read the instructions, which most people don't today. They go to YouTube, which is another marketing thing you should talk about. But they basically said to me, it does all these things. I plugged it in, it didn't work. And yes, eventually they were able to show me how it worked. But they told me, look, it's 3 steps out of the box. It's just going to work. I thought as a consumer, there's absolutely no way I'd be satisfied. I would rather them give me a 4-page manual and instead of that 1 page that had the 6 steps it really took, rather than 3 steps and not have it work. So you can really get yourself in trouble when you make claims and you can't get those things to live up to those claims. So before you launch, you scrub this stuff you have, and my key is always pull it back.
Well,
so
what about puffing?
What about what?
Puffing.
Well, I would never do that, right? I mean, the idea is what you want to do is you want to pull it back. You want to stay as little as you can, get it out there, just make sure it's as good as the product that's out there. In some case, it doesn't have to be the best product in every category. This is another mistake that people make out there. You get out there and you do these analysis. I mean, I do this all the time. I build charts and tables for every product that I have, whether they go in the marketing literature or not. I put down all of the features that they list, plus the features I think are important on the new product, and I do the checkoffs. And this is often a double-edged sword here. So what you want to do is you want to put all their features and then your features, and that's the right way to do it. And if you don't have those features, you're honest about it. What a lot of people will do is they'll do what's called reordering the features. Well, most people who have bought the product to a product that's already out in the market, the feature list, the way it's listed, is done because the people who built that product, if they're smart, if they're good, and don't assume they're not because they're the leaders in the market because you're not there yet, they've put those features in place in an order based on what the customers have given them for feedback. Customer feedback's really important. And the longer you're out there, the more you want to change your features in your list to match customer feedback. As soon as you start reordering that list or leaving things off because you don't have the feature, it becomes dishonest, and it also, believe it or not, turns people off right away. So you don't want to do that. And then I think the last thing, for the most part, is customer feedback. So I can't say how much a pre-launch phase where you go out there. I mean, I will tell you there's certain companies, and Apple's been one of them, where, things didn't get leaked in the past, and in the Steve Jobs days, never happened. People were killed, murdered, whatever, maybe just fired for leaking any details. And that was because when you come out with a product and nobody knows about it, the suspense, the buildup is worth so much. The PR is incredibly expensive, and it's worth a lot of money in PR. I would say in some cases, they got $1 billion worth of free PR because nobody knew about it. But in most cases, if you limit how you do the launch, and we're not even talking about Kickstarter or things like that yet, but if you limit the launch, and on a pre-launch, you go out there and you do focus groups, and those can be under NDA or a non-disclosure agreement. Some lawyers can tell you about how important those are. But under a non-disclosure agreement, you get people to review the product. You might have to pay them or give them something to do that. And they review the product. They tell you can use friends and family for focus groups, although they probably heard you talk about the product a million times and they don't want to bust your bubble. So it's better to talk with enemies about the product. And don't worry if your competitor knows it's coming. It's not like you're going to have anything to do the day it comes out. You're not going to surprise them anyway, because they probably know the market really well. And so you're going to have to go out there and get feedback. And the biggest problem I find, and this is probably number one, I'm guilty of it. Everybody's guilty of it. It's your baby. No one can tell you it's ugly. So you get great feedback where they say, change this one little thing, and you're like, no, I'm not changing it. And it's good to be right a lot, but you can also be wrong. So it's time to sit down and consider it and go, do I change this? What's it going to cost me to change it? What does it mean? How important is it? I was involved with a company a few years ago where they had what we call 3 milestone components to their product.
Hey, Alex, before you go on, we got to take a little break. We're going to be right back.
You got it.
Omelets or pancakes? You used to have to flip a coin, but not anymore. Because for a limited time, all 10 of our hearty omelets now come with unlimited pancakes. Which means this coin doesn't have to choose anymore.
What? I don't have to choose anymore? Ah! Later, choosers! I'm free!
Choose not to choose. Over 10 omelets now come with unlimited pancakes. At IHOP.
If you have a business problem, if someone doesn't honor their agreement and you need an aggressive attorney with over 27 years experience, the Law Office of Peter Bronstein has helped partners resolve disputes, franchisees resolve disputes, and other business owners who have a challenge. Let the Law Office of Peter Bronstein take your stress away. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. Don't wait too long and lose your rights. Solve your business challenge problem today. Visit lacorporateattorney.com. We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SCV may have the answers you've been waiting for. The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step. Call The Way Out today, 661-296-4444. That's 296-4444 for a private free assessment. The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444 or check us out online at thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself. Ask The Way Out for help today.
The popular Summer Beach Bus is back. The city of Santa Clarita is now offering rides to Santa Monica Beach on Saturdays and Sundays now through September 1st. Forget dealing with traffic or money for parking. Ride to the beach with ease on one of the city's comfortable, air-conditioned commuter express buses. Bring your beach chairs, coolers, and surfboards. Fares are only $3 each way for children and adults, $1.50 each way for seniors 60 years or older, and persons with disabilities. For more information, visit SantaClaritaTransit.com.
Why do people from all over Santa Clarita come to our spa in Canyon Country? Simple. They want the highest quality services at prices that everyone can afford. This is Rosemary from Beyond Harmony Med Spa. Read our reviews and know why we won the Ultimate Beauty Awards 2 years in a row by the readers of Elite magazine. Come and see how close we really are and experience the level of excellence that our clients have loved for the past 13 years. Go to beyondharmony.com or call 298-8008 today for a free consultation.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Welcome to the Ask Brien Show. The following is paid programming and does not necessarily reflect the opinions of KHTS or its ownership.
Welcome back to Ask Brien with an E. And we're listening to our guest, Alex Grossman, also our co-host, Alex Grossman. How many hats do you wear, Alex Grossman?
I try to wear not more than 10. It's a limit on my part.
Is that why you have 10 hats? Is that why when you walk into the room, 2 or 3 hats come off because it hits the ceiling?
Takes me a while, I guess, to do. The Abe Lincoln hat is my favorite, but I can't help it.
All right, and you are an Abe Lincoln person because of anyone who knows Alex, I've never met a more honest person. So we were going over a couple of issues there, and you were discussing something. I actually lost track. I got to be honest.
Yeah. So Brien, I'll tell you that I was going to talk about a couple of years ago where I was working with, and this is a friend who has a small company. Not a lot of people in the company. I would say 6 people in the company. They build a product they've been building for many years. They kind of fell into this product. They visited one of their customers. Their customer said, "Hey, you do this kind of work. Could you build this for us?" And so they ended up building this product, and then their customer's competitors saw it, and before you know it, they became the leader in the industry with this product. And a lot of since it was built in the U.S. and it's machined, it's a machine product, not high tech, and they outsource some of the parts and they assemble it at their facility. And I call it a facility. It's like a 2,000 square foot place, and they take a lot of pride in it. Everything is perfect. The fit is perfect. Over the last 15 years or so that they've been building this product, they've just added quality and quality to it. And so the product goes out and they have great customer service. If it breaks, they just give you a new one. It's fantastic. But they
invented the Frisbee, huh?
I wish it was that easy. No, it's actually used. It's actually a product used by a number of fast food restaurants, believe it or not, and a couple chains. So they do pretty good. Well, what's happened is people look at that, and for years, people have been trying to knock it off. And they did actually do a step that I believe you do before a product launch. They did patent it, but their patents have now run out. And, of course, there's offshore people that look at it and go, well, I'm going to send it offshore and build it. And they've been very, very fortunate that no one has built a product as good with the same quality that lasts. But recently, a couple of years ago, they contacted me and said, we have this problem. We're competition is coming up on us, and we're trying to go after these newer restaurants, and the problem is we don't have the same relationships with the people. There's a lot of younger people there. There's people who care more about that last dollar than the quality and the care and the look that it provides. And so we're having a hard time. And so I looked at their marketing materials. They had basically a one-pager and a website, a couple other things, and they had 3 main features. I mean, these is basically the closest thing you get to mom and pop because that's who runs it. Actually, Grandpa, believe it or not, designed the product. And so they had 3 main features, and I looked at them and I said, you highlight feature 1, feature 2, and 3 are really important, and you don't talk about the company and the products, and you don't have that Made in USA sticker on there and all those things you need, and you're really proud of it. And your differentiation, your product differentiation is, I can't tell you because you'll know the product, is number 2. And they're like, no, number one is it, that we live on this. This is what we built the product on. I go, yes, 17 years ago at the time, you built the product on that, but it no longer matters. And this was really hard for them to take. And this is the same thing I see with new products where people say, this is the feature that we care about because this is the differentiating feature. Nobody else has it. And I said to them, look, nobody else has this differentiation feature, but I don't care about it. Nobody else does. But what they care about is they care about your quality, the workmanship, the warranty, lifetime replacement, all these other pieces. They care about that, and they care about the quality. So when you talk about your tolerance as being 100,000ths of an inch where the other people are a tenth of an inch, there's a huge difference in there. Yours is, 316 stainless steel, a little technical stuff, but just really high quality stuff. And it took me a long time for them to come around. And the way they came around was I built them a new go-to-market, built them a new website, built them all the pieces, and I had them show it to a couple of their existing customers because they didn't believe that their existing customers, I also have to mention the reason they were doing this as well is they were coming up with a new product that did something slightly different but still did the feature of the other product. And they wanted to have a big splash on it. They were investing an incredible amount of money into new tooling and new molding, and those things cost $30,000, $50,000. That's an incredible amount of money for them, and they wanted to make sure it hit. So they showed this new marketing to an existing customer, and the customer said, wow, the product's really changed. We didn't know you had all these new features. I didn't do much but turn them around, turn the features around. And that's where a lot of times getting feedback from customers, getting feedback from people in the industry, building prototypes before you launch, these things are super important. So
thank you very much, Alex. You've been a great guest. Unfortunately, the time is over. I know everybody loves to watch the show, but we're done. Put it back on.